The whole industry been in shambles. Everybody fugazi, I'm just changing the channel. Kendrick Lamar, the people's champion, I'm animal for analysts. Career damaging versus meditating when candles lit. I like my raps extra prolific. Some freestyling, no lunch tables and park benches. And I won't mention my 10,000 hours in training while juggling game banking. My balancing was tremendous. And now we look at the competition as quick submissions. They tapping out before we even get a chance to miss them. What this about, is it money or skill? Maybe it's both and I got large amounts of it, it's real. You see my oath is very unbreakable. My style is never mistakable. I can see y'all incapable. Who be the god MCs, you know me well. Ridiculous, venomous, hate in my heart. The sinister, run for cover, my lineage prove itself. I'm rolling deep in their paper like two Adels. Before scholars, I flow tighter than virgin lips. We here to shake the game up and you're flying through turbulence. Everything is high stake nowadays. That's how I play nowadays. It's like an 8-ball to the face nowadays. I'm laced nowadays. My gun is off the waist nowadays. It's 7 figures and retainer for the case nowadays. I'm talking higher power every other hour since Eddie Bowers and stash boxes and lead showers. Breaking the padlock and the dead coward. Dying 1,000 deaths. Entire lion surround itself with bears. Watch a nigga, you share profit. Ah! This is what they want, I'm the one. This is vintage from 1980 some. I'm the son of the pioneer that got you near the sun. Play with him, bitch, you better off voting for Donald Trump. I'm yelling Mr. Kanye West for president. He probably let me get some head inside the residence. I'm in the White House going all out, bumping college dropout. God bless Americans. Nothing more influential than rap music. I merge jazz fusion with the trap music. I mix black soul with some rock and roll. They never box me in, I'm David blaming all you hoes. Oh yeah, let's go there. My DNA is DMT, I'm so real. My juvenile was wilder than the no yeah. A locomotive, couldn't track me down in my co-rap. Running this shit with 4 pair. Son of a bitch, I might demolish your bitch right in front, yeah. Chico, what have you done here? Debo, all of it one year. Mississippi to California, it gets annoying, yeah. Niggas wanna deploy him and bitches wanna adore him, but industry shit ain't for him. Probably thinking it's for him, only one me. Swallow the key and kicking the door in. Never leasing my foreign. Mr. Victorian, studied the game before them. Listen to you report them. Baby rappers support them. To the grave I deport them. Corporations extort them. I'm snapping off my endorphins. An alien mighty morphin. My radius rather gorgeous. 100 built to the domain. 100 million my fortune. They call me back in the morning. You're racing against the tortoise. Pace myself is important. Lace myself with the wisdom. My playing is enormous. So pay them in for performance. Saucy hollow my garments. Jimmy Kendrick's performing. This fucking studio haunted. I tell a bitch, don't sweat me. I kill it so fucking beat if cold, let me. Please call. Eve should've never sent the instrumental. Every time I start writing, I get sentimental. This shit is just not fair. But why the fuck should I care? The story of your life here. 2 young stars was born and y'all go die here. Oh Lord, gotta be the yam. Billboard list need Tupac down. But number 9, make sure he lives on, yeah. Oochie, coochie, pussies in a trance. Every day is celebration, but even the valley peak to me is not validation. Nigga, this TDE and my doggies be salivating. Salaries, better ratings, and casualties all around me. Don't make me do demonstrations, wow. Murder my allegations and burning my finger traces and turning my power pages and earning royalty payments. I'm sorry you're not relating, this party is reservated. I kill it so motherfucking beat if J. Cole say it. My nigga each shot the instrumental, I gotta slay it, I gotta lay it, gotta show you fuckers I'm not to play with the records. Have been my favorite King Kunta, the fucking greatest, wow. Burning my lever. No, I'm just fucking with y'all.
Ten toes to the ground. Yeah. Hey, let's get the proceedings proceeding this evening. No promethazine, I'm a king, no leaning. I got a better way to fight these demons. Fuck do you know about my pain? Blah. Let's get the proceedings proceeding this evening. No promethazine, I'm a king, no leaning. I got a better way to fight these demons. Fuck do you know about my pain? If I quote it, nigga, I wrote it, nigga. 6 headshots, Ollie wrote a nigga. Pop another clip and I'm reloaded, nigga. Ain't no way around it, I'm the coldest, nigga. Do a nigga dirty like to clone, my nigga. Get you cleaned up, then I fold you, nigga. Shout out to the haters who promote a nigga. Flow hot, whip cold, I'm bipolar, nigga. But I don't like to talk about a rover, nigga. Keep this shit 100, I just sold it, nigga. Tired of pony looking at me like I stole it, nigga. Probably just gon' cop a little Corolla, nigga. Don't need no rolling on the know I'm getting older, nigga. Dreamfield going way up like a floater, nigga. Couple level hands out like I owe them niggas. Where was you when the civic was getting told, my nigga? No snakes in the grass cause I mowed it, nigga. Fuck do you know about my pain? Right there, let me get that. Talk about it. Fuck do you know about my dreams? Nada. If you really believe and gotta talk about it. You heard about what happens when you talk about it. Niggas looking at you funny when they start to doubt it. Fucking up your energy when you start to doubt it too. Roller coaster ride. How much do it cost? If I take a ride. Shout out my nigga E. El Presidente and shit. How much do it cost? He want me to talk my shit to ride. Fuck around, get lost. Cold world, you should stay off this dick. I sold out the garden, I should play for the Knicks. Took a couple minutes and I sold out Staples. A nigga getting cream like an old ass Laker. But I ain't come to talk about all that paper. That's what they talk about when they got shit to say. Can't understand why niggas never got shit to do. You know the saying, same shit, nigga, different day. I never felt that, no way. Cause on the same day a nigga doing different shit. Spit different flows, hit different chicks. Let my Brixton hoes see me fishing chips. Why I do a lot of shows, I'm the shit that's it. Got suicidal doors, I just slit my wrist. Never stingy with the hoes, word the Cliff and Chris. Or if I fuck 6 bitches, I got 6 assists, nigga. The flow sick as shit. Catchy bowler if you bit the shit. I never take, I invent the shit. Then flip the shit, then lit the shit. Then bit the shit back twice, I'm that nice. Whew. What's the plan? Cold keeps snapping like a mustard jam. Got a middle finger for Uncle Sam. I done paid so much taxes I can fund Japan. But instead they make a young nigga fund the man. Same man that keep a young nigga under dam. I just cock back nigga and my gun don't jam. On a scale from 1 to 10, I'm 100 grand, it's cold. Fucking world, nigga. Dreamville in this motherfucker. Top dog in this motherfucker. When you and K that shit drop, bitch never. They can't handle 2 black niggas this clever. But this February bet shit gets scary when I fuck around and drop. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, dear Mrs. Bill Collector, I know you're just doing your job, don't mean to disrespect you, but we've been going through this thing since way back. I told you when.
You can see this here on Bleacher Report on NCAA. And welcome everyone to our AP Top 25 Bleacher Report reaction. I'm Andy Katz. You can see this here on Bleacher Report on NCAA.com, on March Madness MBB, whether that's on X or on Instagram, breaking it all down for you. Before we get to the poll, I want to just say one thing, that I say this every week, and for whatever reason, it does not penetrate in terms of my rationale. Doing a bracket, and we saw this with the top 16 reveal over the weekend, a bracket and seeding is taking the entire season, okay? Rankings are, what have you done for me lately? What do you look like, okay? And so I had a Kentucky fan yell at me, get all in my grill Tuesday night in Lexington, that I had flipped Alabama and Auburn. Now, Auburn, at the time, had just lost at home to Florida without Elijah Martin. And not close. I mean, it was like 9. I mean, Florida won that game. So in that moment in time, Auburn was not the best team that week.
No one wants to be treated like a number. At Meridian, you're not a number, you're a member. Because around here, banking is different.
What happens when you switch to a network you can count on and afford? A whole lot of happy. Great network, super price, happy you.
Were they going to be the number 1 overall seed in our bracket? Yes, and they were on Saturday. Well, what did Auburn do? They went out, had 2 road games, and they went to Vanderbilt and won, and they went to Alabama and won. So in my mind, the way I do it, they have reasserted themselves as a number one ranked team. They were always a 1 seed in the last week to 2 weeks. That was never in question. I try to explain things like this, but when people are yelling at you and say you suck and you don't know what you're talking about, it's kind of hard to rationalize. I will say a huge shout out to 2 other fans, one wearing Kentucky blue, another wearing Tennessee orange, who came to my defense and said I don't suck. And they also were very complimentary of my rankings and my process. So there you go. Let's get to this poll. I can already tell you right off the bat, there's a team that is missing. Where is New Mexico? What does New Mexico have to do? Okay. I have seen San Diego State in this poll. I have seen Utah State in this poll. New Mexico, 22-4. They got the sweep of Utah State. Beat them this past Sunday. They have 1 loss, kind of a fluky game at San Jose. Not a good loss, I understand, but it's 1 loss. Already beaten San Diego State, they got to go out there. Already beaten Boise, they go there next. Got to sweep Utah State. Sweep of Colorado State. So the best teams in the league, they've beaten. Beaten them all. Richard Pitino, by the way, should also be a finalist for National Coach of the Year. They lose Jalen House. They lose JT Toppin. Oh, where's JT Toppin? He's on the number 9 team in the country. And you know what? New Mexico, behind Donovan Dent, Nelly Jr. Joseph, Drew Washington, and others, they're even better than they were a year ago when they won the Mountain West Conference tournament, ended up losing to Clemson in the first round. So right off the bat, I'm on my soapbox. Where is New Mexico? The joke is the Mountain Time Zone is the time zone that people forgot. I mean, it's a joke that New Mexico is not ranked. And Kansas, enough already. Kansas lost to a very mediocre Utah on the road. They're at BYU next. They could get swept in the state of Utah. I mean, ridiculous. Again, this is not a seeding issue. This is not a top 16 issue. This is a ranking. So right off the bat, I'm on my soapbox. Where is New Mexico? That's the glaring omission. Now we'll deal with the positives, which are no issue with the top 5. Auburn, Florida, Duke, Alabama, Houston, all deserving, all with a chance to win the national championship. Auburn wins at Alabama. Florida continues to win. I think they've won 3 in a row. Duke, after losing to Clemson, they rip off 2 in a row to destroy the Bay Area teams, Cal and Stanford at home. Alabama, won on the road before losing at home to Auburn. Houston is now alone atop the Big 12 with 1 loss. Tennessee lost at Kentucky, ended up beating Vanderbilt at home. A&M, sneaky good. I like them. Buzz Williams doing a great job. Iowa State and Texas Tech and Arizona, which you see at 19, are all right there with Houston. Those are your 4 best teams in the Big 12. Which team am I not mentioning? Kansas. Okay? Houston, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Arizona. By the way, Iowa State and Houston, they didn't go big time in the portal. Now, Texas Tech did with Toppin and Hawkins. Arizona didn't go big time in the portal. Went more international. Kansas kind of overspent big time in the portal. St. John's split their week, got the win over Creighton. Wisconsin, right there. I agree with that one. Winning at Purdue. We're going to talk about the Badgers in a moment. So you got the Big Ten right there, 4 in a row. Wisconsin, Michigan, atop the Big Ten. Purdue, which has lost 2 in a row, to Michigan and Wisconsin, 2 teams in front of them. Michigan State ended their slide by winning at Illinois. Missouri's won, I think, 3 in a row. Marquette. I would drop Marquette. Marquette has been struggling. Their one win in the last couple weeks is over DePaul. Kentucky. I have no problem with Kentucky being ranked because they got the win over Tennessee. Then they lose at Texas. They have no point guard right now. They're all hurt. I appreciate Clemson being ranked at 18 with the win over Duke. 21-5. Brad Brownell, maybe the most underappreciated coach in the country. You see Arizona. There's Maryland at 20. Maryland right now may be the best team in the Big Ten. Okay? Tremendous work from Kevin Willard's crew. Derek Queen, I think, is a first-team All-Big Ten player. Mississippi State. So the Bulldogs get the sweep of their arch rival, Ole Miss, which you see at 24. So they beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss lost a couple in a row. Memphis, I'm glad they stayed ranked because that shows the respect, how hard it is to win on the road regardless of league affiliation. They lost on the road in overtime at Wichita State. And I don't care if Wichita State's, where they are. They're better than they've been, but always a difficult place to win on the road. There's Jayhawks. I've said my piece. 25, Louisville, right there with Clemson. So you got Duke, Clemson, Louisville are the 3 best teams in the ACC. So I would bounce out either Kansas or Ole Miss and make sure New Mexico's ranked. That's what I would do. My team of the week.
Meet Justin Trudeau's economic advisor, Carbon Tax Carney. His advice? Hike the carbon tax.
Not just a carbon price today, but the prospect of higher carbon price over time.
Carbon Tax Carney. He's just like Justin.
Enjoy free shipping on beauty orders over $75 at tsc.ca.
The Auburn Tigers. Auburn, as I said, had lost to Florida at home. So what do they go do? The 2 road games, they win them both. At Vanderbilt and at Alabama. So impressive. Barring some craziness, they will be the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. Unanimous #1 in the top 16 reveal on Saturday. Player of the week. What a transfer. He may go down as the best transfer in the country. John Tonje. Tonje started his career at Colorado State. Was a big-time scorer there. Goes to Missouri, gets hurt. Missouri goes 0-18 last year in the SEC. No Tonje. Tonje goes to Wisconsin. I saw him early in the year. He had 41 against Arizona. In their one game this week at Purdue, he had 32. So impressive to win at Mackey behind Tonje's 32. This team is not what you expect from Wisconsin. They can go for 80, 90. The Tonje Blackwell 1-2 punch, the way Krall and Winter are playing, and Klesmit, they're getting great rotation play from all their other players. This is a Wisconsin team that they could get to the Final Four. No question about it. Addition by subtraction. They're better without A.J. Storr, who took the money at Kansas. They're better. So, Tonje, my National Player of the Week. Games to watch this week. Michigan State, Michigan. First of 2 matchups. Winner's going to be right there for first place with Wisconsin on their heels. That game's Friday night at Chrysler. Iowa State, Houston. Iowa State, because that strange mini 3-game slide, if they want any chance of catching Houston, they got to pull this upset on the road. Duke versus Illinois and UConn St. John's. What a weekend this is going to be at the Garden. I'm going to be there for that. Saturday night, 8 o'clock on Fox. We hope that Illinois rises to the challenge with Kasparas Yakachonis. NBA Scouts are going to love this matchup. You got him, and you got Cooper Flagg, among many others for Duke. The Garden tends to be Cameron North. It's a great atmosphere for Duke. It's a sellout. So that's going to be a great Saturday night. Then at noon the next day, we've got St. John's, UConn, Patino, Hurley. UConn now, they can't win the league. St. John's has the lead in the Big East after beating Creighton. Going for the sweep over UConn. I think it's going to be rocking there. Then same day, Purdue, Indiana. Yes, with Indiana struggling, still the Hoosiers, they're still playing for something. As crazy as it sounds, they're not out of it. With Mike Woodson's resignation, they've had so many opportunities, close losses, including at Purdue. And they had a great chance to beat UCLA. So now you got Purdue at home. It's always a big-time game. Tennessee at Texas A&M and A&M at Mississippi State. Huge week for the Aggies. Huge week. Home game against the Vols to try to, move above them in the standings and compete for maybe third or even second. And then Mississippi State, even in the league, but climbing. Kentucky, Alabama. Alabama won at Kentucky. We don't know the health of the point guard situation, but I still anticipate this being a big-time matchup in Tuscaloosa. St. Mary's at Gonzaga. So the Gales have the lead in the WCC. They've already beaten Gonzaga. This is the Zags' chance to probably at least tie for the championship. I think it's asking a lot for St. Mary's to lose another game based on their remaining schedule. Gonzaga has to beat Washington State first before this game. St. Mary's, I think, plays Portland before, so I'm not anticipating a loss. Still, I think the Kennel will be rocking for this game. Then we got San Diego State at Utah State. Utah State just lost to New Mexico. San Diego State's rising, and if they have, I don't think they can catch New Mexico, but if they have any chance of finishing second, this would be huge because Utah State already won in San Diego earlier this year by 1. So that's going to be a great game later on in the week. So let's see here if let's see. All right. As you can see on our right here, just to highlight, Clemson keeps rolling. That was a great result for them. A&M kind of dismissed Arkansas. Any little hope we had thinking that they were going to make it, I don't think so. The Houston-Arizona game, again, it's the Cougars reestablishing themselves. Texas Tech had 2 crazy games against Oklahoma State and Arizona State. Great win for Missouri. Iowa State, UCB, Cincinnati. Duke crushing Stanford, and, of course, the Auburn-Alabama result. In terms of and there's a couple others here, the Utah-Kansas game, I think that stands out. There's the Wichita State-Memphis game that was in overtime. Michigan-Ohio State on Sunday. St. John's, over Creighton. And how about Maryland putting up 100 points on Iowa? And then you see Mississippi State knocking off Ole Miss, and then Texas beating Kentucky. Trey Johnson, a great freshman for the Longhorns, had a great game in that one as well. The top 16 reveal, I would just say this. So Marquette and Michigan State were the 2 on the outside that could get into the 4 lines. I would say based on that, who was on the 4 line, St. John's was the last school. They could certainly slide off, depending on what happens on the stretch. And Kansas was a 4 that I think could slide off. Won't be shocked at all if they could lose to BYU and, take on even more water. So there are spots available for teams to climb up to that 4 line. But it's usually a pretty high percentage of the teams in the top 16, first of all, that stay in it on Selection Sunday. And the top 8, so from the first 2 lines, may not be the exact order, but they stay pretty true to those top 2 lines when you've got 3 to 4 weeks left. It's kind of hard to drop off of that. So some housekeeping items, just to direct you. Throughout the course of this week, I continue to post my Meet the Men's Basketball Selection Committee members. There are 5 new people. So check those long-form interviews out on all my social handles. Just posted an NIT 101. There's some changes to the NIT this year. So check those out for who is, the criteria, who you can see or how they will select the teams. As I said, this week, my schedule, I will be at Iowa, Oregon on Wednesday, and then on Saturday for Duke, Illinois at the Garden, and St. John's, UConn on Sunday. So a couple of very quick questions before we get out of here. So Texas A&M, are they overrated? No. Utah State make the tournament? I think they will. I think the Mountain West, you're right, they get no respect. I think they'll get 3 bids. New Mexico, Utah State, and San Diego State. It's down from 6 last year. So this question about Rick Pitino, not Richard. Yeah, I debated that. He probably should be on there. I don't think he's going to win it, but he's done a great job. But I don't want there to be any confusion because Richard Pitino deserves to be a National Coach of the Year. Randy Bennett, you talk about St. Mary's. Again,
There's DIY, and there's doing it yourself. It's the difference between being creative and being a creator, between a homemade recipe and a household name, between a daydream.
He gets no respect. So here's how I did my Power 37. Auburn, Florida, Duke, Alabama. So very similar. Houston. Then Wisconsin, Michigan, Texas Tech, St. John's, Iowa State. Maryland, I put at 11. Tennessee, 12, because they split the week. A&M at 13. Arizona, 14. Purdue, 15. I have New Mexico at 15. 16. Memphis at 17. Michigan State at 18. Clemson at 19. Kentucky at 20. 21 Mississippi State, 22 Louisville, 23 Illinois, 24 UCLA, 25 Missouri, 26 Ole Miss, 27 UConn, 28 Creighton, 29 Marquette. So I put all those Big East teams in the back end. BYU 30, Kansas 31, Utah State 32, San Diego State 33, Wake Forest, huge win this week at SMU. St. Mary's, George Mason still atop the A10, and Bradley with a monster win over Drake on Sunday to split the season series. So Drake on the outside looking in my poll, Bradley right there. This is what, unfortunately, it's probably a 1-bid league, but I think either Bradley or Drake, either one of those schools, whoever wins the Valley, they're going to be a team you should pick to win a game in the NCAA tournament. They are going to be a dangerous 12. They have 12-5 upset written all over them. Could they get to 11? Possibly. But I think this is the prime 12-5 pick. Bradley or Drake over whatever 5 they're opposite. I'm leaning that way. I don't even see the bracket yet. So definitely keep an eye out for that. All right. So I've sort of covered all our bases here. I did have Pat Kelsey. You can check out my Coach of the Year candidates. I think right now Bruce Pearl probably is going to get it. You know, number one team in the country. He's done a great job, weathered a lot of injuries. So I think he's the leader in the clubhouse right now for National Coach of the Year. All right, that is a wrap on our weekly AP Top 25 Bleacher Report poll reaction. As always, we are here at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, just for your scheduling purposes. We've got February 24th, March 3rd, and March 10th. So we've got 3 more of these at this exact time. We'll have others, of course, during the NCAA tournament, probably Champ Week. But and welcome everyone to our Bleacher Report AP Top 25 reaction. I'm Andy Katz from NCAA.com, Bleacher, TNT, March Madness, MBB, wearing many hats. All right. Before we break down this poll individually, I am going to address what I see. I've seen others that have posted their top 25s. It is staring me at the face in this top 25. And I wrote about this in my weekly word on NCAA.com. And that is, when you lose really badly, Illinois loses to Duke by 43. UConn gets blown out by St. John's. Kansas got obliterated at BYU. And here's the one, Purdue. Purdue lost 4 in a row. I don't see how they can be ranked. How do you stay in a poll when you lose 4 games in a row? This is not about seeding. We say this every week. It gets old and people don't listen. But I don't understand how Purdue, and we see on there, yes, look at their notable wins. Of course, they've got tons of quad 1 wins. Alabama, Ole Miss, that was in San Diego. Alabama was in Indianapolis. They beat Maryland. They beat Rutgers, Oregon, Michigan, Indiana the first time. All good for the NCAA tournament. But how can they be ranked when they lose 4 in a row? If any other school, not in the Big Ten, maybe the ACC or SEC, loses 4 in a row, they're not sniffing the top 25. I don't care what they did before. So that's my problem here with some of my colleagues, and I see it in the AP, still voting for Purdue. I didn't, because you lose 4 in a row. And by the way, it could be 5 because they're playing UCLA next week or this week, all blurring together. So let's dive into what we got here. And I agree with a lot of what we're seeing in front of me. And we'll get to my Power 37 here momentarily. Auburn, Janai Broom had a great week, 16-31. They're the number 1 team in the country. They avenged that home loss to Florida. They're playing great. No problem. They're the number 1 team. I totally agree with this. In my poll, I flipped Florida and Duke this week. I see Duke 2, Florida 3. There's no way, even though Florida didn't lose, okay? If you watched what Duke did to Illinois Saturday night at the Garden, I was there. That was as impressive a win as we have seen this season. They absolutely dismantled Illinois. Illinois couldn't shoot threes. Horrible percentage. They were shooting like 8%. Great depth on display for Duke. It wasn't just Cooper Flagg by any means. Their defense was superior. I really believe there is a separation right now. It's Auburn and Duke. They're on one level. They played earlier this season in Cameron. Duke won. I think those are the 2 best teams in the country. Now, Florida, Houston.
No one wants to be treated like a number. Around here, banking is different.
Dercos Anti-Dandruff Shampoo eliminates up to 100% visible dandruff, recommended by Canadian dermatologists.
Maybe Tennessee, Alabama, and maybe St. John's would have something to say about it. But if we get an Auburn-Duke final in San Antonio, we'll be treated to something special, because we also have two teams that have 1 and 1A, and they could either week, whoever wins National Player of the Year, if it's Broom or Flag, I got no problem. In fact, I will not be shocked if we see one player win some awards and another. Because remember, there are multiple National Player of the Year awards. There isn't just one Heisman. You've got the Naismith Award, you've got the Wooden Award, you've got the Oscar Robertson Award, you've got AP, and you've got the Rupp. So that's 5 Player of the Year awards, okay? I won't be shocked if one wins 2, one wins 3, 4-1. Won't be surprised at all. They're both deserving right now. So Florida, no problem as a 3. Houston, they're clearing the field in the Big 12. Big game coming up against Texas Tech on Monday night, but they got a 3-game lead right now. So Kelvin Sampson's a Hall of Famer. Tremendous job what he's done. I thought Matt Norlander had some good insight on CBS Sports with a good piece on that. Did a great job. And Kelvin, again, has turned the Cougars into a title contender. Tennessee had a couple weird results in the SEC, but that's okay. Bottom line is they're one of the best teams in the country. Their defense is locking teams up, as you see. And then there's Alabama. So right there, that's 6. Those are your 6 teams competing for the 4 number 1 seeds. My gut is Auburn and Duke, and we'll get 2 of them. That's not a gut. That's just a given, I think. And then the other 2 are up for grabs. I think it's going to for sure be one SEC team. It might be 2. So Florida's got a little bit of a lead right now over Tennessee, and then Alabama, I think. And then if Houston clears it and wins the Big 12 and wins the Big 12 tournament, it's going to be hard not to give Houston one of those 4 number 1 seeds. And by the way, you could have Houston in San Antonio. Pretty good. St. John's at 7. No problem there. Rick Pitino, tremendous job he's doing with the Red Storm. I saw them on Sunday at the Garden. The atmosphere was so great. I love a packed house at the Garden. I think it's the best venue in college basketball when it is packed. And I've been fortunate for the most part to go when it's packed, whether that's Duke, whether that's St. John's, whether that's Kentucky, Carolina, UConn. They can all pack it in a given year. So great atmosphere. Rick Pitino walks out to Empire State of Mind, by Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. It was great, great theater. Place was rocking. By the way, kind of a different crowd. Saturday night, you had more of a wine and cheese Duke crowd, packed. Sunday, St. John's, a little grittier, people yelling stuff during the national anthem. So a little different atmosphere, but both great. And then at 8, Michigan State. Michigan State now atop the Big Ten after beating Purdue and Michigan. Purdue at home, Michigan on the road. Chase Richardson, who we'll talk about in a moment, has emerged as one of the better freshmen in the country. So the Spartans are rolling. I have a big game this week, which I'll talk about here in a moment, Michigan State's next game. Then you got Iowa State and Texas Tech, rounding out the top 10. And Iowa State, Texas Tech, Houston, and Arizona, you see at 22. Those are the 4 best teams in the Big 12 right now, not Kansas. The 4 best teams are Houston, Iowa State, Texas Tech, and Arizona. And with BYU now moving up there, great to see BYU at 25. BYU had a phenomenal week. Kevin Young coming over from the Phoenix Suns. Forget about AJ DeBanza. That's next year's news. This year, Richie Saunders is leading them to the NCAA tournament. Blow out Kansas at home and win in a crazy ending at Arizona late. Caleb Love puts them up, Arizona. Saunders comes back, kind of a little bit of a questionable call, but he gets it, gets to the free throw line, makes a couple free throws, and BYU wins. Second grouping here, Wisconsin, really tough loss to Oregon. Ended up losing in overtime, blew a 17-point lead. I still think the Badgers are really good, and Tanjay's potential all Big Ten first team. But that was a tough loss. A&M, a little bit of a shaky week, but the SEC is going to do that to you. Clemson's rolling right now. Clemson and Louisville, 13-19, tied for second behind Duke. They're both going to comfortably be in the NCAA tournament. The question is the ACC more than a three-bid league? I mean, Wake lost. Carolina is now winning, but they're winning against the bottom. Pitt's played itself out. I think SMU and Stanford have played its way out. So really it's coming down to Wake and Carolina. Can they both win enough to get in the back part of the bracket? Missouri had a great win earlier in the week at home against Alabama. Then they lost at Arkansas. Dennis Gates, I think, is a national Coach of the Year candidate. Could be, if it weren't for Bruce Pearl, he'd be SEC Coach of the Year, and he still may get it. But he and Todd Golden obviously doing a great job. I mean, it's really hard to get SEC Coach of the Year when there's so many top, teams in the SEC. Michigan losing at home to Michigan State. That's why they're at 15. Maryland at 16. I got Maryland higher. I got Maryland top 10 right now. Maryland is rolling. I think they've won 4 in a row. Derek Queen is not just one of the best freshmen in the country, he's one of the best players in the country. Their starting 5 is as good as any starting 5 on the screen. No bench, but hey, the 5 can play. Kentucky having a hard time winning on the road, which is understandable in the SEC, and they just have not been healthy.
As Trudeau's economic advisor, Carney's been pushing
Steady increase in the price of carbon.
And after the election, he's going to hit you with
Effectively a shadow carbon price.
You sneaky.
carbon tax Carney. He's just like Justin.
It's a shame because when healthy, we've seen what Kentucky can do earlier in the season. They can beat anybody. Memphis lost last weekend, I think it was to Wichita State. But then, and it's hard in the American. They are the Super Bowl for every team. Every team needs to try to beat Memphis to improve their resume. 22-5, they're solidly in the tournament. And I think once they get in the tournament away from the American, fresh faces, they should do well. Talked about Louisville, talked about Purdue. Purdue shouldn't be in there. Get Purdue out. I'm sorry. 4 in a row, you're out. Marquette at 21. Again, I don't think they should be ranked. Marquette has been struggling mightily. I mean, their one win of late is DePaul. Got kind of handled by Villanova. They shouldn't be in. Arizona, maybe it should be a little higher. St. Mary's swept Gonzaga. The Gales won the WCC. What a year for Randy Bennett. Loses Aiden Mahaney to UConn, and that was supposed to be a real body blow. Didn't matter. Look what St. Mary's has done. Wins the WCC. Randy Bennett, one of the best coaches nobody talks about. He's a National Coach of the Year candidate. Mississippi State split the week, and again, look how loaded the SEC is. It's a tough loss to Oklahoma. It was a huge win for Oklahoma, by the way, to beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State got a sweep of their rival Ole Miss, and there's BYU. All right, so before we get to our awards, I want to go over my 37. So I have Auburn, Duke, Florida, Houston, St. John's, Alabama as my 6. Again, those are the 6 best teams in the country right now. Texas Tech, Maryland, Michigan State, Iowa State, Tennessee. Maryland, Michigan State, I'll be there Wednesday. They're the 2 best teams of the Big Ten. May not be record-wise for Maryland, but they are playing the best in the Big Ten. I put BYU at 12, not 25, 12. What a week. Blowing out Kansas, and winning at Arizona. Clemson, A&M, Wisconsin, I dropped 16. Michigan 17, Memphis 18, Louisville 19, Missouri 20, St. Mary's at 21. I know Creighton lost a couple, but I still kept Creighton in at 22. Then Kentucky, then Mississippi State, then UCLA at 25. Oregon at 26. Huge week for Oregon. Won at Iowa. I was there last Wednesday. Comeback win at Wisconsin on Saturday. New Mexico did lose at Boise State. It's okay. It's a road game. They're still atop the Mountain West. Ole Miss, Arkansas, Cal getting it done with that win over Missouri. Marquette, I dropped all the way to 30. Vanderbilt, they split their week. Utah State, game behind New Mexico. They got a big game coming up against San Diego State. Boise State beat San Diego State and New Mexico. Could have made them team of the week. VCU beats George Mason. Drake, Bennett Sturts, unbelievable, from Northwest Missouri State, follows Ben McCollum, hits another buzzer beater, beat Northern Iowa. So Drake now atop the valley. UC San Diego, the Tritons, eligible for the NCAA tournament. They're atop the Big West. They're having a phenomenal season. And James Jones again at Yale. Got to give them some love. The Bulldogs, undefeated in the Ivy. They lose Danny Wolf to Michigan, their best player, and they're undefeated in the Ivy. Let's go to our national team of the week. I've mentioned them many times here. What an outstanding week. Great job done by Kevin Young, BYU, so deserving by knocking off Kansas and winning at Arizona, sending a strong message to the Big 12. We are here to stay. And by the way, Kansas and Kansas State got swept in the state of Utah. I covered that league when it was the WAC way back, and it used to be nobody swept BYU and Utah. They were both elite programs out west. Very difficult road trip. And it could be, again, already claimed the Sunflower State top two teams. Player of the week, Jace Richardson. Jason Richardson's son. Jace Richardson, you know, he had a normal sort of growth as a freshman. Early in the season, kind of trying to find his way. All the hype was for other guys in the league, whether it was Casper Siakachonis, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, even Derek Queen, maybe John Mobley. And Richardson has sort of waited his time, and here he is, bam.
Many Canadians are facing housing challenges.
Renting can be expensive if you can find a place.
The Government of Canada has programs that help open doors to housing affordability.
I mean, it's his team now as a freshman. He's taken the mantle. He had 21 in that win over Michigan, 12 against Purdue, 6 boards against Michigan. And that was a comeback win in the second half against Michigan. So Jace Richardson, my national player of the week from Michigan State. The top 10 games to watch this week. So I'm going to be there Wednesday. It's on Big Ten Network. Michigan State, Maryland. To me, it's a top 10 game. To AP, it's a top 20 game. And I really think Maryland is the only team that can catch Michigan State in the Big Ten. Michigan State still has to play Wisconsin at home and then go to, they get Wisconsin at home and Michigan at home. Yes, home games, but still tough games. So if Michigan State wins at Maryland, I think they win the Big Ten. If Maryland wins, they just need help for Michigan State to lose one more game, which could happen. And then Maryland wins out, which could happen. So Maryland getting a share of the Big Ten title is still plausible if they can win Wednesday. This game Monday night, Houston at Texas Tech, that is really the only chance of anyone else winning the Big 12. If Houston wins this game on the road, it's over. They win the Big 12. If Texas Tech wins, they're still going to need help, but at least there's like a chance. I see already people are squawking at me that I had Alabama, Tennessee 4th and should have been higher. Alabama just got kind of handled at Missouri. I think the Auburn-Kentucky game I just think the atmosphere at Rupp's going to be crazy for the number one team in the country. And I just think it's going to be a better overall game. They're both great games. I mean, everyone gets hung up on, well, this is fourth and third. And then they're both great games. My top 10 games every week has been dominated by SEC games. So I am trying to spread the wealth a little bit, but they're both great games. And then back to the Big 12. We've got Arizona, Iowa State. It was a crazy game the first time in Tucson. Caleb Love hit the Caitlin Steph kind of shot. So that'll be a great one. Then back to the SEC, A&M, Florida. Great guard play there, Clayton and Taylor. Then Texas Tech, Kansas. Kansas needs that game more than Texas Tech. Then you got UCLA, Purdue on Friday. UCLA won at Indiana, so they could sweep the state of Indiana on a Friday night. Then New Mexico, San Diego State. This is after the Lobos lost at Boise. They already won at Utah State. San Diego State has lost at home to Utah State. Like, San Diego State needs this game. If New Mexico wins this game, they got a great shot to win the Mountain West outright. And then another Mountain West game right below that, Utah State, Boise State. So Boise State, which is on the outside looking into the tournament. I mean, right now, I think New Mexico and Utah State are safe to get in. And Boise and San Diego State need some good wins, still need some good wins. You know, last year they got 6. I think their high now is 4. They may only get 2 Mountain West. So we'll see. But those 2 games, I think, will have a say in what occurs. Look, there's great games this whole week. You know, and I just want to go back to that point about it's not, we always have to remember that it is about rankings and seedings are different things. So Purdue, Illinois, UConn, Kansas, those 4. I didn't rank them. They're all going to be in the NCAA tournament. And Purdue will be the highest of those 4. But after what happened this past week, Purdue 4 in a row. Kansas, blown out by BYU. Illinois, blown out by Duke. UConn, blown out by St. John's. They're not top 25 teams right now in the rankings. So we've got 2 more weeks, and then it's all about the seedings in the tournament, and we can quiet down about all that. I like the engagement, but that's my soapbox. I believe in it, and anyway. So some housekeeping things. Check out my feed at The Andy Katz or The Real Andy Katz. The Real Andy Katz on Instagram, The Andy Katz on X. Got a great championship chat. Tony Bennett, Jay Wright, Roy Williams. I was just standing there, basically, or in the box. But all week I'm running clips from that chat. Full chat next week. I've still got my Meet the Men's Basketball Selection Committee profiles that'll be posted. We'll have our bracket on Tuesday. I'll be at Michigan State, Maryland Wednesday. So much content. Also, go to On Location. I was in San Antonio last week. You go to On Location, and it's NCAA/VIP. And you can check out the hospitality packages for the Final Four. It's powered by On Location. San Antonio, fan experience. I'll be there with Sean Elliott, among others. Great food, music, entertainment on Saturday before the national semifinals, and then on Monday before the championship game. So check that as well. As always, outstanding job by Caitlin Schmidt, our producer, and the entire teams in Atlanta and New York. That's a wrap for this edition. We'll be back next Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern for the final week of the regular season, if you can believe it or not, men's college basketball. Thanks for watching.
Tonight, Alicia went to 4 engagement parties. She's done bringing a forced smile as her +1. Here's a ring, Alicia. Say I do to Fruity Sweetness.
The future of your business is here. With Wix, you get advanced AI capabilities,
for more customization, more time, and more growth. Speed up your website copy with an AI text generator that delivers a consistent brand voice to every corner of your site. Unlimited unique visuals enhance every piece of content you create. Instantly transform any idea into an image right from the comfort of your platform. And win back hours of hard work with AI-powered emails designed to perform. More conversions, less hassle. Smart benchmarks show you exactly where you stand in the market. See what's working and what needs work so you can quickly spot your next opportunity and take your business where you want to go. Oh, and we're just getting started. Go to Wix.com and make it happen.
Welcome back to Rack the Kitchen with special guest, Nabatia.
That's the 10.
And welcome everyone to our weekly AP Top 25 men's basketball poll reaction here on Bleacher Report, repurposed on NCAA.com and March Madness MBB. I'm Andy Katz. Believe it or not, this is our second to last AP Top 25 reaction because when we get to Selection Sunday, no one cares about the poll. It's all about the bracket, which is great. It's what it should be. So on March 10th at 1 o'clock Eastern, that'll be our last Top 25 breakdown because that'll be leading into Champ Week. Now, this weekend, believe it or not, we're going to get our first automatic bids to the NCAA tournament. We're going to get the OVC, the Sun Belt, the Missouri Valley's always great. Arch Madness ready to begin. So all that's going to start Saturday and Sunday, and then it runs every day next week into Selection Sunday. So last time to sort of break this poll down, I have to beat the dead horse here and reiterate that what you see in the top 25, what you see in my Power 37, is not the same as the seedings. Seedings and rankings are different. Now, someone may have a different opinion on how they do their top 25. I view it as snapshot in time, take it in a sort of a perspective of where we are. For example, I didn't rank Texas A&M. I dropped them completely out. Why? They've lost 4 in a row. Here they're at 22. Good example. Last week, I dropped Purdue out. What did Purdue do? Look great in the last 5 minutes. Beat UCLA at home. They're back in my poll. Now, they never left AP Top 25, but a week ago, sitting right here, I thought they shouldn't be ranked because they had lost 4 in a row. There has to be some sort of penalty because if another team that is not in the Big Ten of the SEC loses 4 in a row, they're long gone. And so I think there has to be some perspective here. All right, so there's another team in here right off the bat that I can see that I just don't have as highly ranked right now, but we'll get to that in a moment. A couple of them. All right, so let's just break this down, and then we'll get to my Power 37. We'll do Player of the Week, Team of the Week, and Games to Watch. So let's start off with number 1 team in the country. It's Auburn. Auburn has now clinched the SEC title outright. That's because Jemai Mashak hit that buzzer beater to beat Alabama for Tennessee. That allowed Auburn to clinch it completely. Not sharing it with anyone. Great video I saw online of Janai Broom watching the shot and realizing that they are SEC champs. What a convincing win at Kentucky. Auburn they're the favorite. Not just next week next week in Nashville, but certainly when we get into the NCAA tournament. They're going to be the number 1 overall seed. That is the one certainty that we know on Selection Sunday. The second one is that Duke will be a number 1 seed, starting out in Raleigh, likely then going toward Newark in the East region. Auburn will be in Lexington, Kentucky, feeding likely to Atlanta for their path, which would be a great path because I think an SEC host city in Lexington, and then you go to Atlanta, which is an easy drive from Auburn, Alabama to Atlanta. I think that you're going to see Auburn fans take over Atlanta because I think they're going to get out of that first weekend and it's going to be a great celebration of this team, that university in Atlanta, for the regional semis and final. Duke, I know the criticism is the ACC is not that strong. Louisville and Clemson are clearly the next tier in the ACC. But if you watch Duke, they have met every challenge. They're dominating defensively, and they've had injuries, whether it's Malik Brown. Now it's Tyrese Proctor with a bone bruise. They've had to deal with different things, and they have persevered. So the Blue Devils this week on Monday night, they host Wake Forest in their final home game. And then they end the season, regular season, Saturday at North Carolina, a major game for the Tar Heels that we'll talk about momentarily. Number 3, Houston. Again, I like this pick. The Cougars, Big 12, outright champs. What a job Kelvin Sampson has done. They beat Texas Tech on the road. Texas Tech was out without 2 starters, but hey, great win for Houston. Then they beat Cincinnati. So they win the Big 12. Duke hasn't officially won the ACC yet. But they will. So right off the bat in your top 3, you've got SEC champ, ACC champ, Big 12 champ. Tennessee checks in at 4 after that Meshack 3-pointer to beat Alabama at the buzzer. Florida, which split its week in terms of its schedule, losing to Georgia, that good bounce back win over A&M on the weekend. They check in at 5. And then there's St. John's, Big East outright champs. The Red Storm with a phenomenal last couple weeks, beating Seton Hall. Rick Pitino with the Scarface, Al Pacino suit he was wearing there, all white on the whiteout. I mean, just tremendous.
Being a Scotiabank client gets you closer to the game. Skip the lines. Skate at Scotiabank Arena. Win tickets and more. With Scotia Perks, you're in. Scotiabank, you're richer than you think.
Dad, where do bunnies live? How tall can trees grow? Where does the sun go at night?
The all-new, fully redesigned 2025 Subaru Forester. Trust the real search engine.
Where do babies come from?
Great outfit there. Great win for St. John's. What a transformation this program has had in the last 2 years under Rick Pitino. So they check in at 6. No problem there. There's Alabama, which loses the buzzer at Tennessee. So, again, no qualms here. You'll see, I think, when we get to mine, maybe it was 1 or 2 off. Michigan State, now in the driver's seat to win the Big Ten outright. They've clinched at least a share, and they've got the double bye. They have 2 games left. Iowa on the road, home Michigan. They won at the buzzer last Wednesday. I was there for that against Maryland on the Trey Holloman 3-pointer. And then they dispatched Wisconsin on the weekend. Texas Tech bounced back after the Houston loss and knocked off Kansas on the road. Red Raiders doing an outstanding job. JT Toppin's first team All Big 12 transfer from New Mexico. Iowa State, Gilbert's injury, I think, has really affected them. Not a shocker. Keyshawn Gilbert. So they're just not the same team we saw earlier in the year, but I fully expect them, if they are healthy, to be a team that can get back to being a potential Final Four team. I like the Clemson at 11 because the Tigers are way undervalued. Second place tie with Louisville in the ACC. Brad Burnell doing an outstanding job. If you go Coach of the Year in the ACC and it's John Shire, or Brad Burnell, or Pat Kelsey checking in at 14, all 3 deserve it. Someone's going to get it, but all three have done an outstanding job in different ways. Duke incorporating an unbelievable freshman class, Clemson really retaining their core and getting back. They were in the Elite Eight last year. And Louisville, completely new team, new roster for Pat Kelsey. Wisconsin at 12, they split their week. They beat Washington at home, and they lost to Michigan State. No Max Klesman. He was out, so they're not at their full strength right now. I appreciate that Maryland is still right sort of in the neighborhood there because they lost at the buzzer at home. I mean, it wasn't a great game. They didn't shoot well, but it was a great ending. Not for them, but for Michigan State. And then they bounced back and won at Penn State. So kudos to them. I will be at the Maryland-Michigan game on Wednesday night. Talk about Louisville, Missouri. Missouri split its week, and Dennis Gates. Again, this is, any other year, I think he'd be a lock for SEC Coach of the Year. But look what's ahead of him. Bruce Pearl, Rick Barnes, Todd Golden, Nate Oates. And there's Dennis Gates from 0-18, ranked 15, easily in the tournament, 21-8. Again, I have no problem any one of those 5 coaches. However you want to order them for Coach of the Year in the SEC, fine with me. They've all done an outstanding job. And I would add Mark Pope, you see there at 19, to make it 6, because he's done a great job with a completely new roster. I love the Memphis pick at 16. Penny Hardaway has done arguably his best job at his alma mater. I think this is year 7. Huge win on Sunday. I was watching that game at UAB. They haven't clinched the American yet, but they will. And no one's going to want to play them. I saw them early in the season. They've got talent at every position. They've got depth. They can make shots. They've got the physicality. They can defend. They're a team that could get to San Antonio. Michigan. Just a disappointing game against Illinois on Sunday. Be really interested to see what happens when I see them in person again on Wednesday hosting Maryland. They're not going to win the Big Ten. Their best chance is to try to sweep Maryland and win at Michigan State to get a piece. It could be very difficult. They just didn't defend well. There's Purdue, no problem, back in there. Kentucky split its week. They lose to the best team in the country at home. It's a shame Jackson Robinson out for the year. So we'll never know the full potential of this Kentucky team, which is a shame. Because when they were healthy, saw them earlier in the year as well. They beat Duke, they beat Gonzaga, but they've just, once we've been in the SEC, they've not been healthy. So I didn't have them at 25. I have them just outside. I did not have Marquette at my 25 either. Marquette has not beaten one of the elite teams in the Big East lately. 2 in a row, but against, the bottom. So jury's still out on Marquette. The big game coming up against UConn this week. St. Mary's sweeps Gonzaga, continues to win. They're a team no one's going to want to play in the NCAA tournament. Let's see if they win the WCC. It's a year where they don't have to. They're in. They are comfortably in. A&M, I would not have selected them for the top 25. They've lost 4 in a row. I know it's in the SEC, but when you lose 4 in a row, there has to be some sort of penalty. BYU continues to win. Keep them in there. Doing a great job, Kevin Young. Arizona slipped a little bit, but their schedule has been brutal. But Tommy Lloyd, I think throughout the course of the season, has done a really good job. And Mississippi State, I have them deeper in. Wanted to see a little bit more. So let's look at my Power 37 before we get to our awards here. So I had Auburn, Duke, Houston, Florida, St. John's at 5, Tennessee at 6. I know people would probably say I should flip that, but whatever. Alabama 7, Texas Tech 8, Michigan State 9, Iowa State 10. Then I go Maryland, BYU, Clemson, Arizona, Memphis. So a little higher in Arizona. Louisville, St. Mary's at 17. Wisconsin at 18, Purdue 19, Oregon. I got Oregon at 20. Oregon is on a roll right now. Vanderbilt on a roll right now in the SEC. Missouri at 22. Illinois back in after they crushed Michigan, then VCU. VCU deserves some love. Got them at 25. They're the best team in the A10. And again, you can all mock me. I don't care. If you look at that 12-5 game, because this could happen. If VCU is at 12, I don't care who the 5 is. You're probably picking VCU. UCLA 26, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Marquette, New Mexico. Then I got Boise, Xavier. Get to them in a minute. Creighton, Drake wins the Valley. UC San Diego is going to win the Big West. First time eligible for the NCAA tournament. They transitioned from 2 to 1, so 4-year period. And then Colorado State, hottest team in the Mountain West Conference right now, beating Utah State. All right, so let's go to my National Player of the Week.
Trump seizes on weakness, and nobody's weaker than Mark Carney. Carney sold out Canada when he moved his company's headquarters to New York, giving Canadian jobs to America.
You sneaky.
Carbon tax Carney. If Carney wins, Canada loses.
And Harry Kane scores another goal. Is there anything Harry can't do since switching to new Skechers football boots?
Checkmate.
Incredible Harry Kane. That's impressive. And now he just pulled a sword out of a stone. This guy can do anything in Skechers.
New Skechers football. It's comfort that performs.
And what a job this person has done. Just really remarkable. I wanted to make sure, there's been times when I probably should have given him a shout out. Chucky Hepburn from Louisville. Chucky, 37 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals with just 2 turnovers in a 79-68 win over Pitt. Earlier in the week, they were on the road at Virginia Tech, 5-point win. He scores 15, as 6 assists. On the season, 16, 3, 6 assists, shooting 45%. He is arguably the main reason that Louisville is tied with Clemson in the ACC for second. Our March Madness National Team of the Week, Xavier. Now, I really wrestled with this. Michigan State had a great week. They get a share of the Big 10. Houston wins the Big 12. Auburn, SEC. St. John's, Big East. But when I think about the bubble, which is what a lot of times we focus on in this last week of the season, Xavier had a phenomenal week to put itself in position to possibly get a bid. They've won 5 in a row. They win at Seton Hall. It's a road win. And they absolutely crush Creighton, beating Creighton by 22, 83-61. Last 2 games are at Butler and Providence, at Butler, home Providence. Win those 2, and they've won 7 in a row. And the back of the bubble is so bad, they're going to be in position to possibly get a bid. And they've had injuries, and Sean Miller's done a great job. All right. A lot of people get hung up on the 10 games I pick. These are not the only 10 games. It's not easy to pick 10 in the final week of the regular season. So right off the bat, Alabama at Auburn. First game, Auburn won at Alabama. This is the rematch. Auburn won the SEC, but Alabama's trying to get that 2 seed. So it's a big game there. They still want to be a 1 in the NCAA tournament. But can they win on the road at Auburn? It's going to be a great atmosphere. Senior day for the Tigers, which are a great senior class. Now, here's what's interesting. Duke at North Carolina. So I have it at 2. I still say it's the best rivalry in the sport. I totally understand why ESPN is going there with game day. I mean, I worked there 18 years. It rates. I hate to tell everyone, but it's a national game more so than Alabama-Auburn in basketball. So yeah, separate college football. Iron Bowl obviously would rate better, but Duke Carolina and men's basketball will rate. And so I'm not surprised game day's going there. You have to think like that. Don't just think like, oh, the greatest game is this, and that's where they should be. They're also televising it, and they are, they do have the SEC and ACC rights, so that's fine. But if the best game of the day was UConn Marquette on another network in basketball, not football, basketball, they're not going to go to the non-ESPN game or ESPN Network's game. Just the resources are not the same in basketball versus football from a production standpoint. So a lot of times they'll use the same truck. It's just different. Football in football, the college game day franchise can bounce around to non-ESPN games. The budgets are different. It's just a different thing. So I'm just giving you perspective there. But this is a huge game for North Carolina. Huge. Okay? They are squarely on the bubble. They desperately need this win. Florida at Alabama. How about the week for Alabama? Hosting Florida, going to Auburn. So we're going to learn a lot about the Tide. They want that 2 seed in the SEC. They want to 1 in the NCAA tournament. 2 monster games. Michigan State. I moved it a little lower after Michigan got drilled on Sunday. And it looks like Michigan State's going to win the Big Ten. But it's still a great rivalry game. Game I'm going to be at Wednesday. This could have double bye implications. Maryland and Michigan. So right now it's Michigan State and Michigan, Purdue, and Maryland. Wait, do I have that right? Michigan State, Purdue, and Maryland, yes. For the double buys with
RBC Advisors can provide the ideas, advice, and community connections you need. As many were once newcomers too.
UCLA, Illinois trying to get up there, and Wisconsin trying to get up there. So it's going to have it'll be important. Indiana, Oregon. I would not have this game on there a couple weeks ago, but Indiana's on a roll. They're right on the bubble. I have them on the right side of getting in. Oregon's been rolling. So this would be a huge win if Indiana could get it on Tuesday. BYU and Iowa State. Contrasting styles. Cougars are hot. Iowa State's kind of tailed off a little. Intriguing game. Purdue, Illinois on Friday. The Boilermakers beat UCLA last Friday. A few days ago. Illinois is coming off the Sunday win at Michigan. So this game's going to have some implications probably for Big Ten seeding. Kansas at Houston, that's on Monday night. Cougars have won the Big 12. Kansas needs to show some pride in the front of the jersey here. They need some momentum going to Kansas City next week. Hard to get it in Houston. And then Dayton at VCU. Now, Dayton, I don't think, well, they can't catch VCU for the title, but they still want to try to be that 2 seed. And I think this will be a good indicator for what we could see next week in the A-10 tournament. Because I think Dayton has the most talent, but they haven't played up to it consistently in the A-10. VCU's been the best team, with George Mason right there, of course, as well. So this will be a really intriguing game Saturday at VCU. So that's my game breakdown. Just a friendly reminder that we will have our bracket release on Tuesday. Okay. So I'm going to answer questions here. I did debate the Xavier over Michigan State. Again, Michigan State won at the buzzer and then won a home game. I just thought the significance of Xavier for a bubble team was what leaned me a little to the Musketeers, and the way in which they beat Creighton by 22. I really wrestled with this. And, I haven't given Xavier any love all season. Jason Richardson was my National Player of the Week. I think it was the week before. So, that's why. So my National Player of the Year prediction. I mean, right now, I'm leaning Broom over Flag. But it's going to be interesting. Very interesting. My thoughts on Wake are Wake's blown it. Wake has had so many opportunities to get in, and they blew it. Bid stealers in power conferences. Well, first off, if Xavier's not in, they're one in the Big East. In the ACC, again, I don't think Wake is in, so they would be one. Pitt has really struggled, but they have the ability to win games. In the Big 12, could TCU win it? Probably not, but why not? Question, if Indiana goes 1-1, are they in? I think they are. Probably Dayton. It would be better if the one win was at Oregon, but I think if they go 1-1 in their final 2, yes. Look, the Ducks, I like them at the beginning of the season. I think Nate Biddle is so undervalued. The key to them is if Jackson Shelstead makes shots. They're going to get good defense from Bamba. Bartholomew is going to make a couple of shots. Evans going to block shots, but is Michigan too high after getting steamrolled by Illinois? I had them, in the 20s, so maybe.
Choose Allegra for fast, non-drowsy allergy symptom relief. It's a no-brainer.
Looking for the right coverage to protect your loved ones? Start with a teammate you can trust. Sun Life, the proud life insurance partner of the Toronto Raptors.
How does Florida get moved back, but Duke moved up? Well, one lost, 1-1. I guess that's why. But I had Duke too. My eye test is, for rankings, not seedings, but rankings. I mean, I think Auburn and Duke are the 2 best teams in the country. I had Florida ahead of Tennessee. I think people got enamored with the 3-pointer. Does Nebraska make it in? Boy, right now, I got to think about that. They could be on the other side. We haven't done that yet. Later today. Wisconsin, no Klesmit. It's a hard road game. I'm not worried about the Badgers. I still think Wisconsin, with their resume, could be a 2 seed. At worst, I think they're a 3. Kentucky, I dropped them, but they're still fine for the tournament. I agree. I didn't have them in my top 25. I do think Duke's going to win it in Chapel Hill. That's my prediction. I think Houston's one of, I think it's Auburn, Duke, Houston. Probably are the 3 teams I would put in order to win the national championship. So, when the bracket comes out, people are going to probably be like, oh, he picked some chalk. But I may go 3-1s. See how it all lays out. But to me, those are the three best teams. Could Kansas fall to the first four if they don't win again? I'm going to say no, because they got that win over Duke, win over Michigan State. I think that will keep them out of that. Can Michigan State get a 1 seed? Probably not. So he's got Jerry Palm's got Maryland at a 7. I think that's based on their non-conference schedule. I think I have them as a 5. So we have a 2 seed line difference. That was the win by Georgia over Florida, Mike White over his former team. That's the kind of win that can get you into the NCAA tournament. Texas Tech deserves a bump after beating Kansas. Well, that's what I did. So I think that's similar. All right, so some housekeeping items again. My Meet the Men's Basketball Selection Committee series, that is still ongoing. Arthur Johnson from Temple, Irma Garcia from Manhattan University. Also interviews with former chairs, Charles McClellan, Tom Burnett, Chris Reynolds. That'll be all this week. Also, something else to look out for. Talking to the anticipation was I'll be talking to either a player coach from all the AQs over the next, week and a half. Whatever it is, 10, 11 days till we get to Selection Sunday. So check all that stuff out. And bracket tomorrow, Tuesday. And then we're back right here one more time a week from today, which is Monday, March 10th, for our last AP Top 25 poll breakdown. As always, Caitlin Schmidt, an outstanding producer, getting it done. And thanks to our team in Atlanta and New York. So continue to engage, digest it all, and we actually will have a bracket in our hand in 13 days, believe it or not. 2 weeks from today, we'll be breaking it all down, even more so. All right. Appreciate everyone. Have a great week. And welcome everyone to our final regular season AP Top 25 poll reaction here on Bleacher Report. Not the end of our conversations, but the end of our breakdown of the poll. And why is that? Because on Sunday, we get a bracket in our hands, and that's all that matters for the rest of the college basketball season. Rankings are good. We like dissecting it, and we like doing it, but it all goes away, and we actually get a bracket. Now, how do the two things mirror each other? Well, as we look at the AP Top 25, the final regular season one, because conference tournaments, which have already started, and I've had a great time talking to the winners already. We've had the A-Sun, we've had the Big South, we've had the OVC, we've had the Summit and the Valley. So 5 AQ bids already, Saturday and Sunday. And then the rest of it will all happen from today being Monday through Sunday up until Selection Sunday and the Selection Show at 6 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS. So what does this poll tell us? Well, it doesn't always mirror the top seeds. But if it were Selection Sunday today, Monday, the top 4 in the AP Top 25 poll would be the top 4 seeds. The order might be tweaked a little in terms of the seed lines, but the 4 number ones, I firmly believe, would be Duke, Houston, Auburn, and Florida. My gut is Auburn, even though they've lost 2 in a row, they have the best overall resume, so there's still a good chance they would be the number 1 overall seed. I don't know how much it really matters. We know they're going to play in Lexington, which will feed into Atlanta. Houston will likely play, I'm guessing, in Wichita, which would then feed into Indianapolis. They wouldn't go to San Francisco. They certainly wouldn't go to Newark. Duke will be Raleigh, Newark, assuming they progress. Florida as a 1 would be probably the one that would get shipped. So they would probably be closest to Florida, likely Lexington, could be Raleigh as a 1 seed. And then they would get shipped out if they were to advance to San Francisco, because we do not have a top seed out west. Duke is the number 1 team in the country. Really an amazing run by John Shire and this crew. Got the sweep in North Carolina. They were down, came back, and got the sweep of the Tobacco Road Series. Their loss in the ACC was at Clemson. So this will be interesting, because the way the ACC bracket breaks out, Duke is the 1, 2, 3 is Clemson, Louisville. So if seeds hold, Duke's only going to have to play one of them in the final. I think that Clemson, even on, that was at Clemson. I think matchup-wise, Clemson has a better chance of upsetting Duke on a neutral floor than Louisville. They've got the bigger bodies inside, Shefflin, and I think they would have the ability to cause some problems for Cooper Flagg and Common Malawach. So, there's a potential there. Although Duke is playing great right now, especially defensively. So I would lean Duke to win the ACC tournament title. Already we're getting questions chiming in that the ACC is horrible outside of Duke. I would amend that comment and tell you that I think the ACC is incredibly down outside of Duke, Clemson, and Louisville. I mean, Clemson and Louisville have had great seasons. We cannot deny that. So I would not dismiss Clemson or Louisville going on a run and getting to the second weekend, depending upon the bracket and how it breaks out. John Shire, I just saw Field 68, tabbed him as the National Coach of the Year. Haven't done mine yet, but really, when I look at this poll.
Meet Justin Trudeau's economic advisor, Carbon Tax Carney. His advice? Hike the carbon tax.
Not just a carbon price today, but the prospect of higher carbon price over time.
Carbon Tax Carney. He's just like Justin.
How's it going? Going well.
That's that new guy energy.
Oh, he's back. That's the 4th time he's done that.
So you're peeking at probing?
Peeking with serious intent to probe.
Alpha 2, we might have guys starting to move in our position.
Copy, we're getting a buildup of activity here too.
Yeah, I definitely see weapons at this point.
Yeah, we have definite massing.
Redman 08 is profane. We're seeing activity converging to your north and south.
This is Frogman 6 Romeo. We need evac at our last known position.
We have severely wounded. Who's the severely wounded?
It's not you.
Is it me? Who is it?
No, it's not you. No,
Who is it?
Copy, 1 word, contact 2.
You coming to you or you coming to us?
Stand by.
I think the top candidates for the Naismith National Coach of the Year are all within this group of 7. Really, you could go to 9. I don't think Grant McCaslin can get it over Kelvin Sampson. And that's the problem. We've got so many SEC schools. But John Shire from Duke, Kelvin Sampson from Houston, what an unbelievable job he's done with the Cougars to win the Big 12. Then Bruce Pearl from Auburn, Todd Golden from Florida, Nate Oates from Alabama, Rick Pitino from St. John's, Tom Izzo from Michigan State, and Grant McCaslin from Texas Tech. I think those are all legit candidates for National Coach of the Year. And I wouldn't be shocked if, again, there's not just one award. And so I won't be shocked if we will see multiple Coach of the Year awards. So, with that being said, Duke has won, no problem, because Auburn lost 2 in a row. Houston, again, they answer the bell every single time, home, road, in the Big 12. Only one loss in the Big 12. Just seamless from Kelvin Sampson's crew. Auburn drops to 3. We'll get to my Power 37 in a moment. To me, they're top 5. You could debate 3, 4, 5. I'm fine with that. Florida checks in at 4. Alabama at 5 with the buzzer beater from Mark Sears, essentially, to beat Auburn to split that season series. St. John's at 6. Buzzer beater to win at Marquette. They win the Big East tournament outright. And the way they're rolling right now, they're clearly the favorite at Madison Square Garden this week in New York to win the Big East tournament title. In fact, and then Michigan State. They beat Michigan, so they get the sweep of Michigan, and they win the Big Ten outright. So Auburn won outright SEC. St. John's won outright Big East. Duke won outright ACC. Houston won outright Big 12. Michigan State won outright Big 10. Of the conference tournaments coming up this week, I think Duke's going to win both. I think Houston's going to win both, meaning ACC Big 12 regular tournament. I think St. John's is going to win both, Big East regular season, Big East tournament title. I don't think, the way they're playing right now, that I would lean Auburn. I think it's a complete toss-up. I could make an argument for Auburn, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee. You know, if suddenly Kentucky or Missouri get hot, I could see that happening. You know, even an Ole Miss. So I think the SEC is wide open. So if you were to say Auburn versus the field in the SEC, who's going to win the SEC tournament? I would go field. Michigan State versus the field in the Big Ten. That's close. I really only think after what we've seen the last week, the only schools I think that will win the Big Ten tournament are Michigan State, Maryland, UCLA, or Purdue. Purdue is not playing as well lately, but it is in Indianapolis. They're going to have a huge crowd there. So that's worth a few points. Michigan State's playing well. Don't play till Friday. Neither does Maryland or UCLA. Maryland has the best starting 5 among all of them. No bench. UCLA, probably the best defensive team. Can they score enough? Michigan State has that great second gear, and Purdue's going to have the ability to, 1-2 punch of Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman, Wren, and the home crowd, I should say. So, in that case, is it Michigan State versus the field? I might go Michigan State here because of the way they're playing. But it's close. Auburn versus the field, I'm going field in the SEC.
This spring at Dave & Buster's, our all-new games will have you taking flight with Top Gun, stepping into the octagon, and going toe-to-toe with Godzilla. Experience all new games and hundreds more only at Dave & Buster's.
Tennessee at 8, Texas Tech at 9. Grant McCaslin doing a phenomenal job. There's Clemson at 10. Great to see the respect for Clemson. Maryland 11. A week ago, Wednesday, I was there for their win at Michigan, and then they took care of business over the weekend against Northwestern. Iowa State, not playing up to their potential, but they have not been healthy the whole season in the Big 12. Louisville, great respect for Pat Kelsey. I think Chucky Hepburn's an All-American. A&M, end of the 4-game slide, beat Auburn, huge for the Aggies. Kentucky, what a great win at Missouri. They've not been healthy, and they're not going to be because Kirk Kriisa and Jackson Robinson, they're done for the season. They're not coming back. And yet, Great win at Missouri. Mark Pope also, in any other year, might be National Coach of the Year, let alone SEC Coach of the Year. Memphis, again, Memphis or the field in their conference tournament. I'm going Memphis. They won the regular season. I think they will win the American tournament. Now, UAB, North Texas, and even Wichita State could give them problems. But they have risen to the challenge, cut down the nets. Penny Hardaway, I think, is a National Coach of the Year candidate. Don't think he'll win it, but he's done a phenomenal job. So is Kevin Young at Brigham Young. BYU is on a tear right now in the Big 12. Now, could they beat Houston and win that conference tournament? Could they? Offensively, I think they can score well enough, but I don't think they're going to get the looks because Houston is just going to absolutely, they have the ability, I should say this, they have the ability offensively to score at a high clip. But against Houston, that's going to be incredibly difficult. Some teams can't score, whether you defend them or not. They just can't. Not the case with BYU. Wisconsin, really disappointing loss to Penn State at home. It was right there for them to get the double bye. So now that, this is a challenge. Greg Gard's challenging them. What do you got? Hopefully Max Klesmit's healthy for them. They had a chance to wait till Friday to get fully healthy. Now they got to play Thursday in Indy. St. Mary's, so undervalued. Let's see if they can close the deal and win the conference tournament. I think Gonzaga's got to get to that final, and I think it would help Gonzaga if they beat St. Mary's one time and not get beaten by the Gales 3 times. Purdue, a little surprised they're behind Illinois with the way Illinois played the other night in beating Purdue. But again, I think Purdue in Indy is, a pretty formidable team. Missouri losing that Kentucky home game, but still, again, Dennis Gates has done a phenomenal job. Another great job in the SEC. 0-18 now to a team that is going to compete for, I think, a second weekend. Little surprise, Michigan State in the top 25. Michigan is skidding in, losing 3 in a row, heading into the Big Ten tournament. I love that Oregon got recognized here. Oregon's been on a tear. Nate Biddle had a great game on Sunday against Washington. Oregon is a sleeper pick to win the Big Ten tournament of a team that's playing on Thursday. So they're playing Indiana to start the Big Ten tournament. This is what Dana Altman does. Dana Altman consistently has teams that perform better in late February and March. Illinois, what a great win for them. Will Riley played well in the win over Purdue on Friday night. And there's Marquette. Kind of surprised they stayed in the top 25. Lost at the buzzer, I know, to St. John's. But this Marquette team, and Cam Jones has played great. I don't know if they're the second best team in the Big East. Right now, by the way, this team is playing second best to St. John's. It's actually Xavier. Xavier's won 7 in a row. So let's switch to, first of all, our last regular season team and player of the week. If we can do that, just give some shout outs here. Our March Madness National Team of the Week for the final week of the regular season was Florida. They beat Alabama 99-94 and then beat Ole Miss 90-71. I talked about Florida at the top of this. They're a 1 seed right now. They're the 2 seed in the SEC tournament. Todd Golden is a National Coach of the Year candidate. And Walter Clayton Jr., I think, could be an All-American. Our final regular season March Madness Player of the Week, JT Toppin from Texas Tech. Former New Mexico transfer. And by the way, this worked out well for both because Donovan Dent, to me, is an All-American. I think JT Toppin's an All-American. And both teams had great seasons. New Mexico winning the Mountain West and JT Toppin and Texas Tech finishing second to Houston. Red Raiders, they've been one of the best stories. And Toppin had 30 points and 14 boards in a win over Colorado. And then he had 25 and 11 in a road win at Arizona State. The previous weekend, I know it's not part of this, honor, but he did have 21 in their win at Kansas. So pretty good. All right, so here's how I voted my Power 37. I had Duke 1, Houston 2, Florida 3, St. John's 4, Auburn 5, so a little tweaking there, Tennessee 6, Alabama 7, Texas Tech 8, Michigan State 9, Maryland 10, so all in the same ballpark. I had BYU 11, APM 17. I had Iowa State 12, same number. I had Clemson 13. It's shocking here because usually this doesn't happen, but AP a little higher than they had Clemson at 10. I had 13. I had Memphis at 14, so up 2 from them. Louisville 15, so in the ballpark. I had St. Mary's 16. That's down from 19 to them. Illinois 17, AP had 24. I had Purdue 18, so behind Illinois, but higher than 20. I had UCLA at 19. I think UCLA's playing great. They crushed USC. I had Oregon at 20, a little higher. They had them at 23. I had Kentucky at 21. They did split the week. Ole Miss at 22. They didn't make this. I had New Mexico 23, Wisconsin 24, and Xavier. I'm giving the shout out to Xavier over Marquette. As I said, I think they're the second best team right now at 25. UConn 26, Creighton 27, Drake, which won the Valley Sunday, 28. A&M, I know they were at 14 for AP, but they just lost 4 in a row. Yes, they beat Auburn. So I didn't even have them last week. I put them in the top at 29. I'm sure I'll hear about that. Kansas 30 back in after that win over Arizona. Arizona 31. Arkansas 32. Good win over Mississippi State for Cal's crew. Georgia 33. Georgia had the great win this week to get back in. Let's see here. Missouri. I know Missouri fans are going to be mad at me, but they did have a rough week. They've lost 3 in a row, 3 of 4. Georgia's won 4 in a row. Marquette 35, dropped them way down. UC San Diego, they've won 13 in a row out of the Big West. And then Colorado State, they've won 7 in a row to get to second place in the Mountain West. All right, let's go to some questions. Where are we here? All right. So in the chat, we've got Wisconsin should be unranked. Fair criticism after blowing that game to Penn State. How many SEC teams make the big dance? All right, I'm going to answer that. If you don't mind, I'm just going to glance at my standings so I'm answering you correctly. And I'm going to tell you that there are...
Hey guys, Grant Cardone here. For the last 10 years, I've been running what is today's largest, most successful business conference on the planet. And I want to invite you to be there. Check it out for free. That's right, no strings attached, completely free. Now I'm talking about a conference that is so well spoken of, it literally...
Let's see. So, Auburn, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, A&M, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Georgia, Vanderbilt. That's 12. The question is, can they get to 13? Oklahoma, Texas are the 2 candidates. So I've got them getting 12 for sure. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 for sure. It's pretty good. Can Delaware make the finals? They play Towson Monday. No, Towson's going to win. Does Indiana have to win against Oregon to get in? I say no. I think they're in right now. Can the Zags beat St. Mary's? Yes, they can on a neutral court. Certainly in Vegas. UCLA got snubbed from the top 25. I agree. Auburn beat Houston. You know when that was? That was the first week in November. Head-to-heads in the top 25 when they're like a marathon ago? No. Well, AP does care what Michigan State has done the last 3 weeks because they got them at 7. Could Michigan State be a 1? I think that for them to be a 1, Florida has to drop out pretty early in the SEC tournament. I think Houston, Duke, and Auburn are set for 1s. Georgia, Arkansas, Kansas better than Missouri. I don't know if Kansas is. I disagree with that statement. I think Missouri's better than all 3 when they're playing well. I agree. Florida should have moved up. I had to move up. Clemson could win the ACC tournament, yes. St. John's should move up, and I had them higher. I had them at 3. All right, this guy thinks Michigan State, or person, thinks that Michigan State should be top 5. Again, I'm not seeing that. Could BYU get a 3 or 4 seed? I think they could get a 4. Illinois is getting their act together. I saw them at their worst against Duke, and they're playing much better. They're healthier. Don't know why Marquette's ranked. Kentucky stands. It's too bad that Kentucky's not fully healthy. Georgia, I don't think deserves to be ranked in the top 25. I have them in my Power 37. Everyone's down on, Duke hasn't played a high-level opponent in 3 months outside of really losing at Clemson. Yes, this is all true. But I still think that they're talented enough to win the whole thing, regardless. All right. Iowa State deserves more respect. They've been inconsistent, especially with their injuries. Alabama loses and goes up in their ranking. They split the week. They lost to Florida but beat Auburn. Purdue 2-5 in the last 7 games. I agree. Very shaky. Can Alabama be a 1 seed? I think if they win the SEC tournament, they will be. Yes. I gave those conference champ predictions. Big 12, Houston's going to take it. ACC, Duke. Michigan State, I'll still say now, Big 10. I'm going Field over Auburn in the SEC. I'm going Memphis in the American. I'm going to go, I'm actually kind of feeling Dayton in the A10. I'm going New Mexico in the Mountain West to win both. And what am I forgetting? Big East, St. John's. Kentucky 3 or 4 seed with their overall resume. I think they could end up being 3. I voted for you kind of my overall 37. I didn't have my top 25. So not yet. A couple of housekeeping items here. First off, we're going to have a bracket, but on Sunday morning. So that's number 1. Keep an eye out, okay? Last question here I'm going to take about Maryland. I think they could get as high as a 3, okay? That's the highest they can be, is a 3. And that's even if they win the tournament. I don't know if they can get to the 2 line. They just don't have the non-conference. That's the problem. Syracuse and Villanova. Those were their best wins. Lost to Marquette. So I think 3 is probably their ceiling. Anyway, here's some items for you. Bracket will be on Sunday morning. All our platforms. 2, if you haven't noticed, if you follow me, hopefully you do, at the Andy Cats, I'm interviewing, hopefully we go 31 for 31, but either a player coach from each school that wins their tournament. So I've already done 5. I know X has been down, so we'll post the one from last night from the Summit League. Then, starting Wednesday,
Trump seizes on weakness, and nobody's weaker than Mark Carney. Carney sold out Canada when he moved his company's headquarters to New York, giving Canadian jobs to America.
You sneaky.
Carbon tax Carney. If Carney wins, Canada loses.
I will interview either Bubba Cunningham or Dan Gavick. Bubba Cunningham is the North Carolina Athletic Director and the chair of the committee. That'll be Wednesday through Saturday, either Cunningham or Gavitt about the bracket process, what's happening in the room. I'll be in Indianapolis, not in the room, but I'll be in Indy covering the Big Ten tournament, so you can see all that coverage, of course. And then Sunday night, we are going to break down the bracket on this platform. I think, if I'm not mistaken, around 7 o'clock Eastern time after the bracket show, which is 6 to 7 on CBS. And then it all starts a week from tomorrow with the first four in Dayton. So plenty to digest over the next week. I want to give a huge shout out to our producer extraordinaire, Caitlin Schmidt from TNT Sports and Bleacher, doing an outstanding job because this is our last regular season Bleacher Report breakdown. But of course, we have plenty in the postseason. But just make sure she gets her due. Outstanding. I won't say, what's going to happen with her alma mater because they are firmly on the bubble. And they need some wins in Greensboro. I think that's Greensboro this week. Anyway, I won't, her team needs some help. Thank you to Atlanta and New York overall and doing an outstanding job. So, as always, at the Andy Cats on X, if it's up and running, and the real Andy Cats on Instagram. Also on Blue Sky, but I can't remember the whole thing, but just look for my name. We need to change the video thing on Blue Sky so we can post more there. Anyway, appreciate everyone. Off to Indy tomorrow for the Big Ten tournament. So catch all that action, and it should be a pretty great week as we see all the bids start filing in. And look, Cooper Flag and Duke, the number one team in the country, heading into the ACC tournament. And we got a chance that the National Player of the Year, it's either going to be Flag or Broom, or maybe both. Maybe they'll share it. Both are on teams that can win the national championship. That almost never happens. Last year, it almost happened because Zach Edey played for the national championship. So almost happened. And we'll see if it does happen this year if Duke or Auburn win the national championship. They're certainly going to be two of the favorites heading into the NCAA tournament. Appreciate everyone. Thank you. Have a great week watching all this great basketball. And welcome everyone to our weekly AP Top 25. And welcome everyone to our final regular season AP Top 25 poll reaction here on Bleacher Report. Not the end of our conversations, but the end of our breakdown of the poll. And why is that? Because on Sunday, we get a bracket in our hands, and that's all that matters for the rest of the college basketball season. Rankings are good. We like dissecting it, and we like doing it, but it all goes away, and we actually get a bracket. Now, how do the two things mirror each other? Well, as we look at the AP Top 25, the final regular season one, because conference tournaments, which have already started, and I've had a great time talking to the winners already. We've had the A-Sun, we've had the Big South, we've had the OVC, we've had the Summit and the Valley. So 5 AQ bids already, Saturday and Sunday. And then the rest of it will all happen from today being Monday through Sunday up until Selection Sunday and the Selection Show at 6 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS. So what does this poll tell us? Well, it doesn't always mirror the top seeds. But if it were Selection Sunday today, Monday, the top 4 in the AP Top 25 poll would be the top 4 seeds. The order might be tweaked a little in terms of the seed lines, but the 4 number ones, I firmly believe, would be Duke, Houston, Auburn, and Florida. My gut is Auburn, even though they've lost 2 in a row, They have the best overall resume, so there's still a good chance they would be the number 1 overall seed. I don't know how much it really matters. We know they're going to play in Lexington, which will feed into Atlanta. Houston will likely play, I'm guessing, in Wichita, which would then feed into Indianapolis. They wouldn't go to San Francisco. They certainly wouldn't go to Newark. Duke will be Raleigh, Newark, assuming they progress. Florida, as a 1, would be probably the one that would get shipped. So they would probably be closest to Florida. Likely Lexington, could be Raleigh as a 1 seed. And then they would get shipped out if they were to advance to San Francisco, because we do not have a top seed out west. Duke is the number 1 team in the country. Really an amazing run by John Shire and this crew. Got the sweep in North Carolina. They were down, came back, and got the sweep of the Tobacco Road Series. Their loss in the ACC was at Clemson. So this will be interesting, because the way the ACC bracket breaks out, Duke is the 1, 2, 3 is Clemson, Louisville. So if seeds hold, Duke's only going to have to play one of them in the final. I think that Clemson, even on, that was at Clemson. I think matchup wise, Clemson has a better chance of upsetting Duke on a neutral floor than Louisville. They've got the bigger bodies inside, Shefflin, and I think they would have the ability to cause some problems for Cooper Flagg and Common Malawach. So, there's a potential there. Although Duke is playing great right now, especially defensively. So I would lean Duke to win the ACC tournament title. Already we're getting questions chiming in that the ACC is horrible outside of Duke. I would amend that comment and tell you that I think the ACC is incredibly down outside of Duke, Clemson, and Louisville. I mean, Clemson and Louisville have had great seasons. We cannot deny that. So I would not dismiss Clemson or Louisville going on a run and getting to the second weekend, depending upon the bracket and how it breaks out. John Shire, I just saw Field 68, tabbed him as the National Coach of the Year. Haven't done mine yet, but really, when I look at this poll,
And Harry Kane's got.
I think the top candidates for the Naismith National Coach of the Year are all within this group of 7. Really, you could go to 9. I don't think Grant McCaslin can get it over Kelvin Sampson. And that's the problem. We've got so many SEC schools. But John Shire from Duke, Kelvin Sampson from Houston, what an unbelievable job he's done with the Cougars to win the Big 12. Then Bruce Pearl from Auburn, Todd Golden from Florida, Nate Oates from Alabama, Rick Pitino from St. John's, Tom Izzo from Michigan State, and Grant McCaslin from Texas Tech. I think those are all legit candidates for National Coach of the Year. And I wouldn't be shocked if, again, there's not just one award. And so I won't be shocked if we will see multiple Coach of the Year awards. So with that being said, Duke is 1, no problem, because Auburn lost 2 in a row. Houston, again, they answer the bell every single time, home, road, in the Big 12. Only 1 loss in the Big 12. Just seamless from Kelvin Sampson's crew. Auburn drops to 3. We'll get to my Power 37 in a moment. To me, they're top 5. You could debate 3, 4, 5. I'm fine with that. Florida checks in at 4. Alabama at 5 with the buzzer beater from Mark Sears, essentially, to beat Auburn. to split that season series. St. John's at 6, buzzer beater to win at Marquette. They win the Big East tournament outright. And the way they're rolling right now, they're clearly the favorite at Madison Square Garden this week in New York to win the Big East tournament title. In fact, and then Michigan State, they beat Michigan, so they get the sweep of Michigan, and they win the Big Ten outright. So Auburn won outright SEC. St. John's won outright Big East. Duke won outright ACC. Houston won outright Big 12. Michigan State won outright Big 10. Of the conference tournaments coming up this week, I think Duke's going to win both. I think Houston's going to win both, meaning ACC Big 12 regular tournament. I think St. John's is going to win both, Big East regular season, Big East tournament title. I don't think the way they're playing right now that I would lean Auburn. I think it's a complete toss-up. I could make an argument for Auburn, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee. You know, if suddenly Kentucky or Missouri get hot, I could see that happening. You know, even an Ole Miss. So I think the SEC is wide open. So if you were to say Auburn versus the field in the SEC, who's going to win the SEC tournament? I would go field. Michigan State versus the field in the Big Ten. That's close. I really only think after what we've seen the last week, the only schools I think that will win the Big Ten tournament are Michigan State, Maryland, UCLA, or Purdue. Purdue is not playing as well lately, but it is Indianapolis. They're going to have a huge crowd there. So that's worth a few points. Michigan State's playing well. Don't play till Friday. Neither does Maryland or UCLA. Maryland has the best starting 5 among all of them. No bench. UCLA, probably the best defensive team. Can they score enough? Michigan State has that great second gear, and Purdue's going to have the ability to, 1-2 punch of Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman, Wren, and the home crowd, I should say. So, in that case, is it Michigan State versus the field? I might go Michigan State here because of the way they're playing. But it's close. Auburn versus the field, I'm going field in the SEC. Tennessee at 8, Texas Tech at 9, Grant McCaslin doing a phenomenal job. There's Clemson at 10. Great to see the respect for Clemson. Maryland 11. A week ago, Wednesday, I was there for their win at Michigan. And then they took care of business over the weekend against Northwestern. Iowa State, not playing up to their potential, but they have not been healthy the whole season in the Big 12. Louisville, great respect for Pat Kelsey. I think Chucky Hepburn's an All-American. A&M, end of the 4-game slide. Beat Auburn, huge for the Aggies. Kentucky, what a great win at Missouri. They've not been healthy, and they're not going to be because Kirk Kriisa and Jackson Robinson, they're done for the season in the Big 12. Louisville, great respect for Pat Kelsey. I think Chucky Hepburn's an All-American. A&M, end of the 4-game slide. Beat Auburn, huge for the Aggies. Kentucky, what a great win at Missouri. They've not been healthy, and they're not going to be because Kirk Kriisa and Jackson Robinson, they're done for the season. They're not coming back. And yet, great win at Missouri. Mark Pope also, in any other year, might be National Coach of the Year, let alone SEC Coach of the Year. Memphis, again, And Memphis or the field in their conference tournament. I'm going Memphis. They won the regular season. I think they will win the American tournament. Now, UAB, North Texas, and even Wichita State could give them problems. But they have risen to the challenge, cut down the nets. Penny Hardaway, I think, is a National Coach of the Year candidate. Don't think he'll win it, but he's done a phenomenal job. So is Kevin Young at Brigham Young. BYU is on a tear right now in the Big 12. Now, could they beat Houston and win that conference tournament? Could they? You know, offensively, I think they can score well enough, but I don't think they're going to get the looks because Houston is just going to absolutely, I mean, they have the ability, I should say this, they have the ability offensively to score at a high clip. But against Houston, that's going to be incredibly difficult. Some teams can't score, whether you defend them or not. They just can't. Not the case with BYU. Wisconsin, really disappointing loss to Penn State at home. I mean, it was right there for them to get the double bye. So now that, you know, this is a challenge. Greg Gard's challenging them. What do you got? Hopefully Max Klesmit's healthy for them. They had a chance to wait till Friday to get fully healthy. Now they got to play Thursday in Indy. St. Mary's, so undervalued. Let's see if they can close the deal and win the conference tournament. I think Gonzaga's got to get to that final, and I think it would help Gonzaga if they beat St. Mary's one time and not get beaten by the Gales 3 times. Purdue, a little surprised they're behind Illinois with the way Illinois played the other night in beating Purdue. But again, I think Purdue in Indy is, you know, a pretty formidable team. Missouri losing that Kentucky home game, but still, again, Dennis Gates has done a phenomenal job. Another great job in the SEC, 0-18, now to a team that is going to compete for, I think, a second weekend. Little surprise, Michigan State in the top 25. Michigan is skidding in, losing 3 in a row, heading into the Big Ten tournament. I love that Oregon got recognized here. Oregon's been on a tear. Nate Biddle had a great game on Sunday against Washington. Oregon is a sleeper pick to win the Big Ten tournament of a team that's playing on.
Are you really the last person to find out about this Skip Ads Forever button? This is Pi, and if it sounds familiar to you, it's probably because you've seen their ads everywhere, especially
Thursday. So they're playing Indiana to start the Big Ten tournament. You know, this is what Dana Altman does. Dana Altman consistently has teams that perform better in late February and March. Illinois, what a great win for them. Will Riley played well in the win over Purdue on Friday night. And there's Marquette. Kind of surprised they stayed in the top 25. Lost at the buzzer, I know, to St. John's. But this Marquette team, and Cam Jones has played great. You know, I don't know if they're the second best team in the Big East. Right now, by the way, this team is playing second best to St. John's. It's actually Xavier. Xavier's won 7 in a row. So let's switch to, first of all, our last regular season team and player of the week. If we can do that, just give some shout outs here. Our March Madness National Team of the Week for the final week of the regular season was Florida. They beat Alabama 99-94 and then beat Ole Miss 90-71. I talked about Florida at the top of this. They're a 1 seed right now. They're the 2 seed in the SEC tournament. Todd Golden.
It's March, and that means the best time of the sports calendar is here. March Madness, my absolute favorite time of the year for sports, brackets, the crazy upsets, picking who's going to win, betting, obviously, and everything else in between. I absolutely love it, and I have been going over just a ton of stuff, increasing my own knowledge / just wanting to know more. And so I thought everything that I have kind of researched recently and found with upsets, seedings, who's going to actually win it all, hey, let's put it into a video, make it a big one, and teach all the people and give them some info that I think would be helpful for their bracket this year. So I think let's just go ahead and start off. Who can actually win it all this year? Who's actually the teams that have a realistic chance to take home the national championship trophy? Well, there's multiple criteria that a team has to fit for historical teams that have also fit that actually can win it all. First, you need to be top 21 in offensive efficiency and top 31 in defensive efficiency. No first-year head coach has ever won a title, and only one coach with less than 5 years experience at that school has ever won a national title. At least 3 teams from that conference need to be in the tournament, which is funny because last year the case was at least 4. There have never been a team with less than 4 in, and you had UConn with UConn, Creighton, and Marquette, and I believe that was it, and they ended up winning the title. So now that one's kind of lower, it's just only 3. And then this would only be a potential issue for Duke, but I don't think that's going to be the case. They'll have 3 for sure. And then the teams from that conference need to be in the 21 in offensive efficiency and top 31 in defensive efficiency. No first-year head coach has ever won a title, and only one coach with less than 5 years experience at that school has ever won a national title. At least 3 teams from that conference need to be in the tournament, which is funny because last year the case was at least 4. There have never been a team with less than 4 in, and you had UConn with UConn, Creighton, and Marquette, and I believe that was it, and they ended up winning the title. So now that one's kind of lower, it's just only 3. And then this would only be a potential issue for Duke, but I don't think that's going to be the case. They'll have 3 for sure. And then they have to be at least top 12 in the Week 6 AP poll. Yes, that sounds weird, but historically teams that have been top 12 and they're finished because that's when a lot of the non-conference games finish. And so then you go into conference play, and it's like, hey, how did you do in non-conference? And that's kind of a slight indicator. According to these metrics, only 2 teams right now currently fit that. That is Auburn and Tennessee. However, Tennessee is literally at 21 offense right now, and they might be even lower the next day, like the day after this is put out, who knows. And I don't really think they have the ceiling to run the table anyways. But I think this is a really weird set of criteria, and it could be slowly deteriorating as time goes on. With the transfer portal, you can turn around teams with coaches that just get in there quicker than ever. Look at Louisville in the tournament now. Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, even more. All these teams are going to be in the tournament, and they were not looking like that was going to be the case, or at least they were definitely rebuilding, or so we thought, going into the year.